right. So we're going to take a close look at the HTML5 boilerplate. I hope you can read my ASCII text in the back. Ooh, that looks good. All right. Oh, I like that. You can read that. Yeah, that's good. Sometimes it doesn't work with projectors and you have to switch it over to other color schemes, but Cobalt is clearly the best TextMate color scheme, so I'm not changing it. Okay, good. Let's start. Yeah, there we go. So Peter said a little bit of my deal. That's my blog. That's cool. That's my Twitter with an underscore. The guy without an underscore gets a lot of accidental tweets a lot of times, but he's a good sport. The old guy, there was another Paul Arish, and he also had he had that name before, and he had to switch off of it because he didn't like the accidental tweets, which I don't understand because I like Twitter love even if it's not intentional. I work on the Chrome team, do developer relations, talk about HTML5. Also, if you have any thing that you don't like about Chrome or about the Chrome developer tools, let me know because I would love to get those addressed for you guys. There's a lot that bugs me about the tools, but we're working on fixing those. I do work on the jQuery team, as you mentioned. I also hosted and will be hosting again a jQuery podcast called jQuery about front-end development in general. It's a good time. A little bit of that. Ooh. I'm a lead dev on Moderniser. We just added a new builder. Oh, I'm going to show this in a little bit. It's really badass. Yeah, it's good. CSS3, please. If you don't like writing all those vendor prefixes, copy to clipboard. Boom. It's good. Mother having text shadow. Yeah, okay. Let's get to the real thing. We're going to talk about HTML5 boilerplate. HTML5 boilerplate. What is it? It's, I think I originally had it called front-end starting template. And that's really what it is. It's a starting template of HTML, CSS, JavaScript in a way that I've just been kind of collecting best practices from around for the past few years and decided I was sharing them with my teams internally. And then I was like, why don't we just put it online and get a lot of input from everyone and try and make something really cool that everyone can use and learn from. And so that's kind of what it is. It's just a collection of best practices in regards to front-end development and performance that makes fast apps and gets you off and going in your project really quickly. Let's see. Is it HTML5? There's a lot of things in here that have to do with HTML5, and it's a really good starting point to doing HTML5 work, but a lot of the things are just straight up front-end development good things. You can be using them in HTML4 and XHTML. The browser doesn't really care either way. You can actually have an XHTML strict page and put in Canvas and HTML5 video and all sorts of HTML5 features, and the browser doesn't care. It's totally, I'll make that work. Browsers don't care about doc types, really, except that there should be a doc type. And the other goal was that we wanted it to be cross-browser. A lot of HTML5 can totally work cross-browser. And when I say cross-browser, I basically mean it can work in IE6. A lot of people don't support IE6 nowadays, and that's totally fine. I commend you. I think that's we kind of have to go in that direction, and I thank you for taking that step. But IE7's not a lot better. IE8 doesn't have anything that we want, really. So we're kind of stuck with these crappy browsers for a while. But one of the things that HTML5 boilerplate is tries to help you have a little bit of control in those older browsers so that you can target them and fix things with a lot of control. Who uses it? Over on the so the site is it's all on GitHub. There's a lot of activity in the project right now, and we have a really large wiki where there's all the documentation of the project. And on one of the pages is basically just a collection of sites that currently use the boilerplate. People like Unilever use it. I was pretty pumped about that. Bank Simple, these guys are in San Francisco, I think. It's really cool. You can usually tell when you select and you get a custom selection color. That's usually a decent indication that it's using boilerplate. Ben the Bodyguard, you guys might have seen this site. This is badass. The guy is the little guy. He's doing the thing. And then there's that guy who snatches the purse. Ah, so rad. Boilerplate site. Elijah Wood looking dapper, I suppose. Janelle Monáe. It's like Usher in here. I don't know. It's a very good fundraiser. Nokia in Belgium. Yeah, look at this. So this is the hot pink selection color. This ships with boilerplate. This is kind of like my Easter egg that I fit inside of it. And I love it, but it works really well on Nokia because like it matches the color scheme, so they didn't have to change it. It's beautiful. Nike skateboarding. This one just launched a little bit ago. Beautiful site. I mean, it's a whole proper site with e-commerce store. You can browse shoes, shirts. It's quite lovely. And I think they went with brown. Ooh, a little tan over here. I'm super psyched. This launched, I think, today. The government. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're using it. Pretty sweet. Beautiful site. They went with a blue, which looks subtle. Yes, it's very nice. It's regal. I love it. This one's probably my favorite, though. The Grocery Manufacturers of Association of America, or something like that. Also in Washington, D.C., I'm pretty sure that these are like the guys on behalf of Coca-Cola and PepsiCo that tell the government to, that like soft drinks should stay in elementary schools. I think. I mean, I don't know, but so like really professional looking site, right? It's pretty like collar buttoned up kind of thing. Oh yeah, hot pink everywhere. I love it. Love it. I don't know if they know, but I know it. I love it. It's good. All right, so there's people using it. So let's like look at what's in it. Here we go. Okay, so here I have. Today I'm going to be showing what's currently in development. It's not the one that you'll download if you go to HTML5Boilerplate.com, but it's what's in GitHub right now, which is always sexier and better. So you should always use that one. So this is the look of things as they stand right now. So we have our plain old HTML. Inside CSS, we got a handheld guy, and then our regular styles for everyone. Inside JavaScript, it gets a little crazier. Script is where your app scripts go. I like to put jQuery plugins in here. There's some jQuery and PingFix and Moderniser all kind of sit in there. And if you're using other things, they can go in there. And there's some other things in here that I'll get to in a moment. But you kind of get set up with all the things that you're going to get to anyways. The robots.txt, which all it just says is, yes, please crawl me. I love robots. And humans.txt, I don't know if you guys saw this, humanstext.org. These guys, like, just this last week, they were like, wouldn't it be great if we had a humans.txt in the root of every site that just, like, you want to know who made this site, and the humans.txt was going to be like, hey, I was the designer, and this is my name, this is my Twitter, and, like, come check me out. I think it's pretty cool. It's just, like, for us to, like, find out who worked on what. I don't know. Maybe it's a bad idea, but I think it's really clever. All right. So there's a lot of stuff going on in here, and probably the most interesting things are in the HTML and the CSS. So I kind of want to break down what we have in the boilerplate into 10 things. I like 10 things. 10 things about the boilerplate that are pretty cool and you should definitely know. All right. Let's do 5. The IE conditional comments. This is right up at the top of the HTML. This is another way to basically see, oh, this site uses HTML5 boilerplate. Right up at the top, we have these conditional comments for IE that go around the HTML tag. And all they're basically doing is setting the class of IE6, IE7, or IE8 if you're in one of those on the HTML tag. Otherwise, or if you're in IE9, which is essentially a good enough modern browser that we don't need to like throw a stamp on it or like, what is that, like a cattle iron We don't need to like brand it as terrible. These ones definitely are. So they're cool. They're cool. They're not going to get called out here. So as a result, we have those classes. And I like those classes because basically we can now target in our CSS, hey, I've tried everything I can do, but I just can't make the style work without like targeting it specifically at IE6 and IE7. And so I'm just gonna do it. And like you could use like the underscore hack or the star hack. But it's a bit nicer to basically just say, hey, legends, if you're in IE6 or in your IE7, we actually got to like tweak you a little bit because you just don't act right. And so we have this really nice maintainable way to call out in our styles these browsers. So that's up there on the HTML tag. This HTML tag is also going to get a lot more styles as soon as Moderniser runs. You can see right now it says Node.js. It's kind of like a nice hook. You know, sometimes you might have done something like this where you're writing some styles and you're like, you learn that document.body.classname, and you might use a little snippet like this, and you're like, yeah. So I want to know if I have JS, and then if I have JS, I'm going to write styles like this, and I have this widget thing, and now that it's there, I'm going to do something with it. And for me, I like that, but I actually like to style based on the no JavaScript approach instead, because most of my sites are very JavaScript heavy, but I want to like have control when there's not. So with Node.js, I'm like, yeah, if it's no JavaScript and I have this crazy cool, maybe not an accordion, but some cool widget thing, we're like, you know what, you're just not even going to see it. It's just go away. So you have a little bit of control there. All right, the next thing, this starts to get into like really kind of fun markup areas. XUA compatible. I consider this one of the most important things about the markup here. The XUA compatible does two things. It says, first, let's do this one first. If the Chrome Frame plugin is installed on the machine and someone tries to view it in IE, use the Chrome Frame plugin. This doesn't say throw up a prompt to install it. It just says, if you're there, I want to use you because the Chrome rendering engine is probably going to be a lot better than IE7, which I think is a fair assumption. So that's what that does. The IE equals edge is a little trickier. So it basically says, hey, IE8 and IE9, please use IE8 and IE9 to view my site. And like, doesn't that make sense? I mean, shouldn't it just be like that always? Turns out that it's not. For instance, in IE8, if your site is on an intranet, IE8 will actually fall back to IE7's rendering mode, like IE7's browser, and view the site with that. And so you won't get any of the features that are in IE8, except for some of them that kind of leak over. It's kind of like this Frankenstein of a browser that you now have viewing your intranet site. And it's just messy. But like IE9 we have Canvas, we have SVG, and we have all this CSS3 goodness. Like you definitely want the IE9 rendering engine to be viewing your site. And if someone in IE went up, and you know how IE, it has like a little, up in the top, it has this little compatibility view icon. Like if someone hits that accidentally, they're going to be viewing your site in IE7, essentially, instead of IE9 for the rest of the time. But this guy protects against that and says, no, I'm opting into the future. I know that, you know, my stuff's going to look good on great browsers, so please use great browsers. There's one little caveat here, which is that this does not validate. People don't like that. I don't mind it. Some people don't like it. I'm going to bring this over to the validator. This is the new alpha beta validator at the W3C. It's pretty sweet. So, whoops. I'm going to just chuck it in here, throw validate. It's going to be like, ooh, bad, I hate you, you're no good. It doesn't like XUA compatible, even though X specify a vendor level extension for a meta tag. It's kind of the blessed way, but yet it isn't conforming syntax, so it throws an error. That error doesn't mean anything. Browsers have no problem with this whatsoever. It's just the validator doesn't like it. So I think it's OK. You know it. You can justify it. It should be there. It does a good job. And the validator doesn't like it, but who cares? Because browsers don't have a problem. The other thing, though, is that this XUA compatible, you can actually send this as an HTTP header. And if you send it as a header, you don't need the meta. And so Boilerplate comes with a sample htaccess for Apache. And it also we have light HTTPD, Nginx, IIS, and one other one, I think. And here it is. If you're IE, send the headers, do the exact same thing. And so if you're using this, you don't need to actually send the meta tag. And that takes care of your validation problem if you really care. That's good to know. The next thing I want to go into is the Metacarset, which is a weird, weird beast. OK, so this Metacarset is a new short one. And it's great. It's beautiful. And you can remember it. And you can just type it out because I love it. It's just like the doc type, right? Like the HTML5 doc type is a short thing. It's not this big, long, hated it. Right? Lovely. So it's funny because the doc type and the Metacarset are not really like, they're not exactly designed. The way that a lot of the HTML5 spec worked was just standardizing what browsers already did. So it turns out, like this is kind of what they used to look like, right? Whoops. They had this HTTP equiv content type, content Carset. OK. Really weird. But this is actually an improper way of specifying it. Like there should be quotes and things like that. But it turns out that browsers already were parsing this very, very loosely because people leave off quotes and things like that. So really all that they ended up looking for was the meta here, the Carset, and what the Carset is actually equal to. And they basically ignored everything between there. So what that means is that this is all that's required to do that. And this works the exact same in all browsers, just like the doc type does that. So it's really just standardizing the fact that browsers were already pretty flexible to begin with and saying, guys, we don't really need the rest of that. We can just like use this short thing. So it's pretty cool. There's one other really weird thing about the Carset. Sometimes this happens a lot if you're doing Facebook's FBML, which requires to put some like weird XML namespace FB equal, I don't know, it's really gross and it all goes up there as an XML namespace in your HTML and it blows things up. And what happens, then you send it through the validator. And the validator then says the Carset has to be in the first 512 bytes of the document. And you're like, what? 500? Why? What does that matter? It matters for IE. And so, I'm sure you saw that coming. So basically, they put in the spec the fact that IE has this weird bug where it needs the Carset in the first 512 because, okay, UTF-7, weirdest shit, weirdest stuff. Excuse me. Okay, you see this right here. This is plus AD hyphen script, whatever. This is a script tag in UTF-7. So it's really weird. Why that's interesting is that it's basically a cross-site scripting vector. And so the reason why Carset has to be in the first 512 is because if IE reads something like this in your HTML, and it hasn't already gotten a directive about what the Carset should be, it's going to assume the rest of the page is in UTF-7, and it's going to treat that like a script tag, which means someone could have entered something in a form that input now goes into the title tag. The title tag then actually runs script, and then you have a cross-site scripting problem on your hands. But as long as the Carset is defined in the first 512 and it doesn't find one of those, you're all set. So not that you ever really need to know these facts, but that is why the validator yells at you about the first 512. So anyways, this has to be defined up top, near the top, happy, before the title. OK. I mean, that is like really, really meta stuff. OK, I'll move on. I'm going to scroll down the file quite a bit. All right, this is pretty cool. So this is the jQuery include here. Get that on one line. So we're grabbing jQuery off the Google CDN, and we're grabbing the full-size one. I like the full-size one because I like to develop with the uncompressed, because if I'll get back an error that like b.a is undefined, and that really doesn't help me at all. So I really like to have the full one. But you notice at the front, we just have double slash. You're like, it's a typo? I think you meant to have one of these. No, I didn't. So this is what's called, I don't know, I called it this, a protocol relative URL. You could also call it a schemeless URI if you want to be really specific and technical. The protocol relative URL, the cool trick here is that with this request, it's going to request this in the protocol that you're currently viewing the page in, right? And so this is like, oh, great, because we run into this problem where in you're in like a checkout flow in an IE6, you accidentally referenced this file that's on HTTP, and you get this dialog that pops up, and you're like, oh, it's secure, non-secure, and you're like, oh, where is it? Got to find it. This solves that. If you're in HTTPS, if you're in an SSL environment, it's going to grab this using HTTPS. And it just works. And it works in every browser. It's crazy. So we're going to do that when we request jQuery, because we want to get the secure one when we're in a secure environment and not when we're not. And then the second thing we're going to do right after that is we have a little fallback here. So we basically have, if jQuery is not there right after this runs, then there's a problem. And we're actually going to we're going to write out our own jQuery. And we have this one defined locally here. But we prefer to use the CDN one because it's probably going to load faster. So we prefer that one. This helps a lot, not if like Google goes down. CDN doesn't really go down, I hope. OK, it has like once. Yeah, I remember. It hasn't since then. OK, but in addition to the worst times in your life, if you're developing locally, or you're offline or something, you're not going to get jQuery. And so we're just going to use the local one. So we can kind of like have best of both worlds here. Yes. You ever have this problem where you're in a page, yeah, you have like a full proper site, and your home page is short, and then you navigate to the next page, and it's a longer page, and it shifts to the left, like 16 pixels. Probably your client realizes this, and they're like, why is my page shifting a little bit? And you're like, well, the size of the page is growing, and a scroll bar appears on the right-hand side, and the scroll bar pushes everything over. And they're like, I hate that. And you're like, that's how scroll bars work. You can deal with it. And they're like, no, you fix it. And you're like, So we have a fix for that. It's really just this easy. IE actually always has a disabled scroll bar if it's short content. So IE doesn't have this problem. It's only been a problem everywhere else. So HTML, overflow Y, scroll. That's it. Some people do I've seen this one before, height equals 101%. You could, but this does exactly what you're asking it to do. Overflow Y isn't supported in IE6, and I don't know about IE7, but it doesn't matter because we don't care about IE, because they already do the right thing. So anyways, that's taken care of. The IE6 background cache, you remember like background images, and they always like flicker in IE6, and you're like, I already gave you the file, you already have the file, why are you flickering? And then you Google it, and let's see, background image cache. Of course, I know what I'm searching for. And you go, it has this really weird URL. Oh, I can't find it now. It's a messy thing. So anyways, yes, Eric has it here. So anyways, that is taken care of for you as well. It's actually fixed in the DD belated ping fix. In my experience, this is the best ping fix for IE6. Much better than the twin helix pingfix.htc that is a lot more popular. That one's bad. It's really bad for performance. DD belated ping fix is much, much, much better. And so actually down at the bottom of DD belated ping, yeah, here's some minified source code for you. It's right here. It's in a try catch document exec background. Anyways, that fixes it. So thank you, IE6. I really enjoyed fixing all those bugs on your behalf. OK. Question for the audience. Yes. We're halfway through our 10 things, 11 things. I don't know. It's a few things. Question for the audience. Let's see. Raise your hand if you use Chrome as your default browser for developing. Because a lot of people like Firebug, and that's cool. That's cool. But a lot of people made the switch. You bright people with your hands raised. Of the people that raise their hands, raise your hand again if you have been using jQuery 1.4.4, the latest major release of jQuery. Yes? Yes? OK. Of the people that just raised their hands, could you please tell me the name of the method of the Canvas 2D context that you use if you have an image and you want to put an image onto the canvas? What is the name of the method that you use? Maybe you want to draw the image. What is the name of the method that? What is it? No. No, draw image. Who said that? Oh, congratulations. You just won a Japanese. Oh, this is so cool. Oh, no. Sorry, it's not Japanese. It's Chinese. Google Chrome little happy sleeve for your happy machine. If you could pass that back to the man with the five. Very well. Very finely done. Oh, that thing is so cool. I'm jealous. All right. OK, let's get back to some real good stuff. OK, so there's a few more things that are pretty odd. So in the CSS, it kind of starts off, we have a reset up top. Our reset it was based off the original Eric Meyer reset reloaded. And then HTML5 Doctor took that and kind of HTML5-icized it. And so we took that and we used it for a while. And then we worked with those guys on fixing some accessibility problems with that, the outline around the A tag in particular. Now Eric Meyer has released a new version of his, and it is very much in tune with what we have here. So we're all kind of like agreeing now, which I'm very happy about. So after that reset, we have some font normalization stuff. And this kind of stuff comes from the YUI library's fonts.css, which does an amazing job of normalizing font sizes. Like if you've ever done font size is 75%, and then you look in IE, and then you look in Firefox, and they're totally different, this little guy fixes that. And so we've kind of made adjustments. And originally, it was something like this, Arial Helvetica Clean, I believe. I think that's for Linux. And when we first released the boilerplate, this was like a big problem. Because what actually happens is people on Macs might have Arial installed. And then I think at some point it was it was kind of like this. Yeah, I think it was like this because Helvetica looks better than Arial, of course, right? The straight terminals, and it's beautiful. But PC users have a Helvetica, but it just doesn't look good as Arial. So you kind of want Arial on PC, but then you want Helvetica on Mac. And there's really no way to like structure it. And then someone was like, what if we just get rid of those and just go with sans serif? And everyone was like, oh, yeah. Everyone gets like the most good-looking sans serif font on their system. And it turns out it's exactly what we all want. So that's where you start. Yeah. Inside the style, after a lot of fixes for some cross-browser stuff, and the hot pink. Ooh, yeah, the hot pink. You have to do two. This is a weird thing. You have this mod selection, and then you have the real selection. And you would think that you wouldn't have to duplicate, and you could just do a comma here. Yeah, it doesn't work. With vendor prefixed pseudo selectors, you can't select multiple of them. And so you actually have to duplicate the rule, which is a big bummer. Just how it works. It's not a, no, it's, I mean, the spec treats says that vendor prefixed pseudo selectors, basically, if they're not recognized, the user agent should nullify the. So they're following spec. It's just really a pain for us to work around. So then we have some media queries. And then down here is some print styles. And so we have print styles in this sheet. We don't have like an extra print style sheet. And that's a little different. And so the way that works is the style sheet here is there's no media attribute on this, right? I'm not saying media equals screen. And when there's no media, it basically implies a media equals all. So this will go to screen, projection, print, and TV, Google TV, yeah, yes. And so that's usually pretty good. And then you're like, media print, I mean, that looks kind of fancy. Does that work everywhere? And it does. It's not actually a media query, technically. But this works in IE6. So we can just define this. And one reason why this is really useful is because print style sheets, like let's say I had one defined up here, you would think that it's a print style sheet, and therefore it should be downloaded when you want to print something. Because that makes sense. No. A print style sheet is downloaded the second that the browser reads this little bit right here. And it reads that, and it's like, oh, I'm going to grab that in case, like, you know, the minute chance that someone's actually going to print this page. Who prints? It's stupid. So anyways, so if they're going to download it anyway, and it's going to be an HTTP round trip, inlining that inside the file is actually going to be a lot faster than causing another HTTP call. So it just goes in here with the media print. It works everywhere, and users get to the content of their page faster. So it's kind of optimized for speed right there. Also in the style, we have a few helper classes, which just kind of emerged as, you know, common things that we all kind of end up doing. One for image replacement, you know, you have like a little your customized button, and you're going to have a background image come in, but semantically it's beautiful, and then we got to like throw the text indent way over to the side so that we don't see that text and we only see the background image. So that's what this does. Has a little fix in here. If you've done this, like, so the text indent approach is pretty popular. Text indent negative stuff actually becomes a problem in a right to left layout. Instead of going way to the left, it actually goes to the right, and then it causes a scroll bar. So that's bad. So anyways, it forces left to right direction on that to get around that edge case. Things like hidden, just like hides it from screen readers, from users. Visually hidden, which keeps it available for screen readers. This is nice to have this. Like, who wants to actually test one of these for themselves? But this has been tested on all major screen readers, and it works. Invisible is just a shorthand for visibly hidden. And the clear fix. Who uses a clear fix class to clear their floats? Who uses overflow, hidden, or auto to clear their floats? Who uses like a BR clear all or a div class clear afterwards? Yes. Okay. People have different opinions on clear fixes. They do different things. In my experience, this is the best way. It also, the most popular one uses a period here. And it was found that that actually causes extra space in the bottom margin of the page. And someone once found that we can actually use this escape to Unicode, which I think is some sort of white space character, and it gets around that bug. So there's that. Yeah, I'm going to show one quick thing, and then we're going to get into some other stuff. We have a viewport, the MetaViewport. So the MetaViewport is for mobile devices on iOS and Android, Palm Pre, the Windows Phone. They all read the viewport. So basically what we say here is that we want, if someone rotates their phone, we kind of want the size to be the same size when they rotate it, which I think is probably the way that you want to treat your users. We also don't, we say that they can zoom in, they can pinch, and zoom out if they want. So it's pretty flexible. And then, of course, inside the styles, we have media queries where you can target your mobile devices and say, yeah, I'm going to kill that third column. I'm going to squish everything down. So the boilerplate kind of has some things that would make your normal site flexible. It like gives you some hooks to customize it for mobile. But it's, in general, it's for desktop sites that you might just tweak a little bit. So there's some control here. And viewport's a really interesting one, and there hasn't been a lot of research on like what's the best thing. And so we've kind of developed that with a lot of trial and error and talking to mobile experts. And I was really happy because this just happened. This was like yesterday, or no, this was last week. Just last week, a researcher at Yahoo was actually digging into it, and his findings validated the viewport settings that we have here. So I'm pretty happy with the way that we treat the mobile experience. All right. So I showed, 8 things in there. In addition to those 8 things, there's a lot more going on in the styles to normalize how a label goes next to the radio button, and you want them to be kind of like lined up and look consistent across all browsers. We have a fix for that. Or like you always want the cursor hand on a clickable button or a label if it's going to click the checkbox it's associated with. And so that's in there. And we want text wrapping on pre-tag so your code example doesn't cause a huge, enormous scroll bar, and instead you kind of all see it. So there's a lot in there. And in addition to walking through the source, which you can do because there's plenty of comments and references, if you go to the site and just click on Read the Docs, you end up in the wiki, where there's walkthroughs of the markup, the style, and some of the other aspects. And then kind of dig into things, see some of the rationale for some of the choices. In case something is just like a WTF to you, you can figure out what's going on. All right. I want to show a few things that people often shy away from. And those are the HT access. So like I said, it comes with an Apache config. So Apache is the most popular, and so that's what we ship. But we have a bunch of others over in this repo. So this is actually just great, just to like kind of pick up some best practices on ways to optimize your site for performance and get the syntax to just chuck in to what you got going. But we do some nice things in here, specifically around performance. Oh man, if you've ever done web fonts, and And your web fonts, you have your fonts or your CSS on a subdomain. Maybe it's like a cookieless static domain because you're really smart. But then like all of a sudden they don't load in Firefox or IE9, and you're like, what? They're working everywhere else. Yeah, so you need to like set this access control origin header on that thing so that the browser. Oh my God, it's such. Anyways, that's just sitting there. And then we set up some MIME types. That's good. Yes, gzip. A bunch of good quality gzip. And this was really good. If you've read Steve Souders, I think it was Even Faster Websites, the second one, they talked about turtle tappers, which is like antivirus and other programs that actually modify the accept encoding header that gets sent out in the request header. And it basically tricks the web server is like, oh, that does not look like an accept encoding header. You probably can't accept gzip, but they can. And so some guys at Yahoo did some really good research around this and found a nice way to detect when that's happening, when that header is being mangled, and then say, oh, we know that you can't actually accept gzip even though you're trying to lie about it. And so we're going to force it. So you can target, this affects like I think they said like 20, sorry, not 20, but like 10 to 15% of users. So it's actually quite significant. And then we have our expires headers to make sure that this stuff stays cached locally. And then a few more. But like, since this is not shipped to the client, we can afford to be pretty verbose in our comments. So it's definitely a good walkthrough to kind of learn some tricks for serving in a really optimized way. Who would call themselves, if you had to title yourself, you would title yourself a JavaScript developer. And if you're a JavaScript developer, you've heard that unit testing is good, and you should unit test, and you just haven't gotten around to it yet. I'll do it. It's the best practice. So we made that a little bit easier and harder for you to make up excuses. So bundled along with the boilerplate is open test, yeah, QUnit. QUnit is the test suite that ships with jQuery. And so it comes with the boilerplate, and it already has the script files already associated with this, so you have no excuses. The files are waiting for you to just jump into test.js and start writing unit tests, and you'll be good. So yeah, I mean, I put this in because I need the kick in the butt, really. Yeah. And then the build script. The build script is probably one of my favorite parts about the HTML5 boilerplate. The build script is based on Ant, and we chose Ant because it has wide support on Windows. I mean, it's Java-based, so it's Windows, Linux, and Mac. So it does a few things. If you've read a Steve Souders book, you know that these are things that you should be doing, and you hope you're doing them. Combines and minifies JavaScript, combines and minifies CSS. It optimizes your pings, your JPEGs. It removes console logs that you forgot to remove yourself. Removes the test suite. We don't need people to see that. You can minify your HTML even from a little bit to a bunch. And then if you've seen, you put like expire headers in your config, but then you have your style sheet. And so you actually have to end up doing something like this, where you're like sheet CSS, and then you like do the cache bus technique, and then you're like, oh, I updated it. And then I updated it again. Just like force it to get the new one. Turns out that this is not best practice, and it actually hampers the ability for proxies like Squid Proxy to correctly cache that at a proxy level. So the much more preferred way is to put your gobbledygook right here in the file name and not as a query string. And so the build script does that. So every time you build, it increments. So you can go out, guns blazing with heavy expires headers because you have control over the file name. And then updates your HTML to have all these references to these things. And then switches HTML to use that minified jQuery because I like to develop with the uncompressed one. Right, so it does all that for you in about 10 seconds. It's great. And so I'm going to now do that in 10 seconds. Okay, more than 10 seconds. Tabs to close. We're going to use a site that I made a little bit ago, Mother effing HSL. Ooh, yeah, this is good. HSL colors. So I think HSL kind of gets slighted a little bit. We all grew up with hex colors, and so we kind of gravitate towards RGB because now we have the alpha channel. But picking orange with RGB, really hard. I don't know how to combine red and green and blue to get orange. But HSL is really easy to just pick colors out of thin air. So anyways, I made this site to make it easier. Here's the hue. The saturation goes from there to there. And then we have lightness and alpha down here. So anyways, we can get ooh, that's nice. And then go, ooh, no. I'm going to, yeah, and then, wow. Okay, good. Mother effing HSL. So easy. Anyways, so what I want to do is use the build script onto this and kind of see what we get out of it. I'm going to load up Firefox to do a little bit of benchmarking here. So this, I made this a few weeks ago. It's a boilerplate site. You can see the conditional comments. My comment talking about it. Some good stuff down here. We're using YepNope, which is a conditional script loader. So this is pretty cool. See these sliders down here? We're just using input type range, HTML5 input type, to get this nice slider. But Firefox doesn't support it, which is kind of a downer. Opera does. Opera has forever. So what we do is we're going to use YepNope. We're going to use Moderniser to say, hey, Moderniser, does this browser support input types range? If it doesn't, nope. Then we're going to load these files. We're going to load in a slider. So as a result, yeah. As a result, we get these JavaScript-based sliders that do the exact same thing. And we only had to load that code for the browser that didn't support it. And so WebKit and Opera never needed to load that code, which is kind of pretty nice. All right. So what I'm going to do is we're going to use the build tool on this site because it's probably not too optimized. I don't know. I'm going to run yslow on it and see what we get. B, overall performance score is 80. It's all right. It's a pretty minimal page. Page speed, 78 out of 100. Lots of red. Not too good. All right. Let's see. I'm going to take the builds folder from that guy. Go over here. Here's our HSL site. It's dropped in the build folder there. I'm going to do, all right, here we go. That's pretty good. I have a few updates to make here. Yeah, YepNope. YepNope's pretty sweet, but there's a brand new way to do YepNope, and that is with the Moderniser custom build maker. Boom, boom, boom. This was released like this week, I believe. So you can create a custom build of Moderniser. You don't like want to test for all these things. You just want to test for these 5 things. You can do that. So here I just actually want to test for input types. And so I'm going to do that guy. And I can actually have yep-nope bundled into it and available as modernizer.load. Boom, generate. Yes, awesome. Here's the code. Here it is, minified already for me. I can click this download build button, and I get it right here. This all runs client-side, by the way. It's pretty sweet. All right. So now I have it downloaded. I'm going to open that up. Here it is. Yes. Now I'm going to take that and I'm going to replace the old Modernizer. So old. Ugh. New one. New hotness. All right. Now, back in the markup, here's our reference to the Modernizer. Looks good. We don't need yep-nope anymore. And I'm going to get fancy and use our new modernizer.load. Basically, we merged. All right. My syntax highlighting is a little off. Not my fault. All right. That looks good. Okay. Yeah, I think that's probably working. So I'm going to go into, yeah, we can see that. Let's go into build, cd build. What's going on here? Aha. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Ant build. You know what? Ant minify. I'm just going to go straight in. The only difference between those is that we're going to minify minify the HTML in addition to everything else. So it's going through. It's actually upgrading the expires headers that I had. I had expires of default of like 2 months, and I'm going to upgrade it to a year. We had a few images in there that we're compressing. That's what all that stuff is. We commented it out any console.logs. Yeah, that looks good. And as a result, this little folder publish was created. So this guy has the new built version. Let's see if that, yeah, okay, I think that's good. Now, CyberDuck. I don't know, honestly, I haven't learned a cooler way to upload via SFTP than CyberDuck. Might look a little noobish, apologize. Okay, so we have our published version, and I'm going to chuck it up on the domain. Yeah, open, boom. Delete all that. Yeah. All right. So it's deleting. All right. Sorry, it's uploading. So that's pretty all right. I'm just gonna hope that it works. Yeah. Okay. So we have a page speed of 78. This is a Y slow of 80. Nasty. And yes. Okay. Okay. We got our sliders loaded. They loaded dynamically via yep-nope. I'm going to open up Y slow, run that. 84. It's okay. What? That's not at all true. Oh, I know. Okay. I feel, okay. I forgot the most important part, which is the htaccess, which is, I didn't upload it. Because, like, of course, like, I drag it from Finder, and Finder doesn't show dot files, and I'm a noob, clearly. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. I'm just going to go over here to GitHub and grab the htaccess and grab the raw, get this guy, and then, what's up, mother effing HSL? what is it, wget? Yeah. Oh, you're kidding me. So remember when GitHub switched to SSL for everything, and everyone's like, oh, it's great. GitHub's at SSL, and that's like the first SSL, only SSL site. And it's so cool, except for when you're trying to wget stuff off of it. Oh, let's do this again. I'm unsatisfied. Run it again. Score of 92. Page speed. Refresh. Score of 89. What? I minified. That's crazy. View source. We got minified. Everything looking good. I got minified? No, didn't. You know, that's what I get for using the development version. Anyways, this is kind of where we're aiming at is that we've kind of learned all these best practices of like performance, and it should be easy to do it. And so comboing the build script, which is still in beta, and the Apache config or the other web server configs, we can kind of get to the destination, the performance destination that we want in a really reasonable way. So how do you as a user use the boilerplate? Should be pretty obvious by now, but there's one thing to consider, which is we offer a stripped version, and the stripped version is essentially just has all the comments removed, and so it looks a little cleaner, it feels better. So if you're familiar with the pieces, feel free to download the stripped version. If you want, you can just grab pieces out of it, and it's fine. Like I think it can be treated as kind of a collection of good practices that you can copy paste out of. You just want the hot pink. I understand. You can use that. Can you use it with a CMS? Yeah, and a lot of people have. A lot of people have already integrated it into things like Node.js has a really nice setup with Node, Express, and Socket.io, and then boilerplate. There's Grails. There's a bunch of WordPress action, Django templates, and then a bunch of other CMSs that you can kind of like absorb all of the pieces of a boilerplate, but already in a stack waiting for CMS integration. The other thing that people sometimes ask is about upgrading. Like, I've already done a version, but you just put out a new one. What do I do? Like, is there a way to upgrade? It's not really that important. There's no like critical bugs that we fixed. So it's really not a big deal if the new version comes out. You're probably not going to be missing out on anything huge. The Apache config and the build script might be a lot better, and it would be worth checking those out. And those are, like, the HTX is pretty drop-in. It's kind of designed to be a drop-in thing and not break any stuff. And I want to give, if you do mobile development, we've started this started a few months ago, a mobile HTML5 boilerplate. And this is designed specifically for mobile web apps. Like, this is not going to be viewed on a desktop browser. And so it's a bit more aggressive as far as some of its approaches to be mobile specific. So there's a big summary of all the things that it does here. It's designed to be extremely device friendly. And so it's not just your Edge mobile WebKits. And there's a lot of really good stuff inside the docs on that one. So if you're specializing in mobile, I definitely recommend to check that out. We'll be doing a proper release of it soon, but right now it's just the GitHub repo. I would love to get any and all involvement in the development. It all takes place on GitHub. So the easiest thing that you can do is just come over to the page and hit the watch button, kind of get a sense of what's going on. When issues are reported, you can check it out. We use the issue tracker to kind of like, is the humans.txt a good idea? Yeah? No? People liked it, so we put it in. So it's good. I'd love to get your feedback on that. We also have a mailing list that's on Google Groups that you can join in right here. And we kind of toss around ideas. We had a really nice discussion recently about, is it too big? And decided that It's not too big, but some people like other stuff, and so we're actually, some community members have already created a builder. Like, you want to uncheck that you don't want the Google Analytics and you don't want jQuery, and we can make a script for that. And we're going to be putting that out soon. But mailing list is really good. And I definitely love any pull requests if you have any ideas for what should go in here. I'm totally open to talking about like what should actually go in here, because I want this to be, you know, a good collection of best practices that everyone can make their sites better and faster together. So I'm totally into that. I guess that's it. I'd love to take any questions now if you have any. Where is the mobile HTML5 boilerplate? Let's try searching. Mobile. Oh, yes. Well, GitHub knows me. The developer's name, he's a Singaporean developer. His name is Shi Chuan. And so it's under his repo, SHICHUAN. And I'm really, really excited about this project. So we're going to be doing a proper release of it soon. It does not use jQuery Mobile, but it's very, very friendly to jQuery Mobile if you want to use it. For browser support, the plan with HTML5 boilerplate is that the important stuff is going to work in IE6. It's going to work in IE7 and 8 and everywhere else. And so we're not going to add things like, there was a recommendation a little bit ago around some style. And what it required is basically like an attribute selector. I don't know if it was an input type equals password. I don't know. But like, the fix was to normalize things across browsers, and like an attribute selector is not going to work in IE6. And we're like, this project is designed to be consistent everywhere, so that didn't make it in. I plan on making sure that everything goes in here works well in IE6 going forward for a while, because I'm fine with it. But I don't have a problem with other people changing. We have a few ways to basically test to make sure that we're doing things okay. And we have this little demo folder. The demo folder, first, this file just has a bunch of HTML in it, like every single tag available. And we can kind of just see all these tags and how they line up across browsers and see that it actually looks consistent. And then we also have this test file where we've kind of created like unit tests for the browsers. So this is the pre-wrapping that I talked about before to wrap things inside of a pre-tag. So we can toggle on and off the boilerplate CSS and see what happens. And the scroll bar that shows up by default in text areas in IE, we can make sure that it's still doing the good job. So we're kind of using this and going back and forth with it to make sure that as we augment and as we grow the library, or the framework, or it's not a framework, it's just a bunch of files, that we're still staying true to the browser support that we want to be targeting. Cool. Okay. Well, thank you guys very much. And if you have any questions afterwards, please come up.